Hello, my dear Animaniacs. It's another episode of B-Movie Enema the series. I'm Jeff Arbuckle, B-Movie proctologist. That over there is Nurse Disembuadee. How's it going, Nurse?
I'm doing swell, Jeff. How about you?
You know, I can't complain, but I do wish Poop Shoot would hurry up and make with the movie already. We got a show to do.
Come on, PC. It's time for us to get this show on the road.
Hey, Poop Shoot, that wasn't nice.
Sheesh. No need to take my head off. I was just saying it was time for us to do our show.
You'd think he'd quit while he was still ahead.
No doubt. Also, bad joke.
Aha! The new movie is here. Let's find out what it is. Alright. Oh, it's a good one.
Ooh, what is it?
It's 1962's The Brain That Wouldn't Die.
Awesome.
Now, well, I say it's 1962. It was actually made in 1959. When it was shot in the village of Tarrytown, New York, it had the working title of The Black Door. And you know what? I kind of love that title. There are multiple ways you can view that title and how it connects to things in the movie.
I'm actually surprised it wasn't called I Was a Teenage Brain Surgeon.
Well...
You're kidding me.
Not exactly.
Now that's a dumb title.
Oh, and how? It was likely never going to be titled that in any serious way, but that was a suggested title from producer Rex Carlton. There were a lot of titles that had something to do with teenage in the title to lure in younger audiences. In fact, at times it was used as a joke too, but between 1957 and 1963, there were no fewer than 7 or 8 movies, shorts, or cartoons with I Was a Teenage Something or Another in the title. The most famous was I Was a Teenage Werewolf, starring Michael Landon in 1957. But in the years since, there have been other movies or TVs or shorts that use that same naming convention, likely as a joke in almost all cases.
I kind of want to see all of them. I'm not even kidding. I'm guessing almost all those movies with that I Was a Teenage Something or Other type of title are cheesy as all get out.
You know, maybe we can work on that at some point. But The Brain That Wouldn't Die was written and directed by Joseph Green. Now, Green only directed 2 films, wrote 2 films, and produced 2 films. However, no category has the same 2 films in all of them. But the only films that he wrote were The Brain That Wouldn't Die and the 2019 short Hidehauser and Hidehauser, which came out about a decade after Green had died, and really is just a sort of animated feature that uses stuff from The Brain That Wouldn't Die, which is where he gets the credit for the film's original stuff. But the 2 films he produced were American films imported from other countries: Daydream in 1964 and The Brazen Women of Balzac in 1969.
Okay, wait. Just looked up this Brazen Women of Balzac. IMDb says a count and countess, their love life losing luster, invite some people over. That's a porno, isn't it?
Oh, very, very likely it's at least a foreign sex comedy. Although, love life losing luster, that's some great alliteration.
Yeah, I like it.
Now, the only other film besides this one that Green directed was The Perils of PK. The Perils of PK was released in 1986, but starred a lot of older generation actors. I don't know if it was made at the time or earlier on, but it's about a former movie star who is now working as a stripper in Las Vegas, hoping for a comeback.
Between that movie and the one with the lusty lovers inviting some friends over, I'm starting to think Joseph Green had a type of movie he liked to be involved in.
You know, I think that's entirely possible, but producer Rex Carlton didn't do a whole lot of stuff with movies either. In the later part of the 60s, he teamed with famous schlockmeister Al Adamson. He wrote and or produced films directed by Adamson like Blood of Dracula's Castle and Hell's Bloody Devils. He did executive produce Nightmare in Wax and The Rebel Rousers, starring our Holy Father Cameron Mitchell.
Praise be to Cameron Mitchell.
So yeah, this is a movie that is headed up by a couple not very famous writers who also produced and directed the film, but neither did a whole lot before or after with their career.
What's weird is, isn't this one of the more famous B-movies?
Yeah, it is, but I think the popularity came later. Besides, it's not like today when an indie filmmaker hits with something that either gets a lot of critical or cult attention and they end up getting more popular or studio films. In the day and age of which this was made, these types of filmmakers made cheap B-movie horror movies or put their names on imported films. They weren't really going to benefit from a movie about a decapitated head being kept alive in a pan of goo.
Well, personally, I wish there were far more movies with heads in pans of goo.
You know, I have to say I agree.
Let's get into the movie. I'm looking forward to seeing it again.
Now, I think we better do what the lady says, so we'll be back after the first part of The Brain That Wouldn't Die and discuss some of the people we see in this movie.
Let me die. Let me die.
I should have known he was as good as dead when they wheeled him in.
You did everything possible, everything you could, Dr. Collier.
Everything. Everything except save my patient.
Everything in the books. Now, Dad, do I have permission to take over and try things my way?
The operating room is no place to experiment.
He's dead. I can't do any harm.
Very well. The corpse is yours. Do what you want to do.
All right. Make an opening into the chest cavity. Apply 100 milliamps of current directly to the heart, then massage by hand. I'll handle the brain area.
By yourself?
By myself. to work fast, if it isn't too late.
You talk as if he's still alive.
He is. I just picked up a faint pulse beat.
Keep massaging the heart.
I am.
These electric shocks should stimulate the motor area enough to innervate the heart again. Then he won't need any external stimuli.
Keep away from the motor area. You'll paralyze him for good.
Which would you rather be, paralyzed or dead?
Don't try to play God. Some choices are not yours to make.
When the obstetrician has to decide which to save the mother or the child, who plays God then? It's part of the game.
Game? The human body's not a jigsaw puzzle to experiment on.
Still playing it safe like the other doctors, Might as well save my breath. Keep massaging the heart. You've already lost your patient, Doctor. I'm going to save mine.
His pulse is coming back stronger than ever. It's unbelievable.
Nothing's unbelievable if you have the nerve to experiment. I've been working on something like this for weeks.
In your laboratory?
I knew this would work if only I had the opportunity.
You don't conduct experiments on people. You should be sure of the results first.
I am now. Stop massaging the heart. Let's see if it can take over by itself. All right. Close up the chest. I'm about finished with the cerebral area. How's his pulse?
Strong and steady.
You did perform a miracle. I may not approve of your methods, but I am proud of your results. That was an amazing, even an extraordinary operation, son. But it still is too risky, too uncontrolled.
Saved his life.
And the after effects, what about them?
You've lost the urge to experiment, to explore.
You don't explore on people. Before you put a scalpel to one, an operation like this needs testing under every condition. Over and over again. Rabbits, mice, monkeys, not people.
That man who should be dead now won't think so. There's more to surgery than just being a carpenter to patch up walls or a plumber to drain pipes. Our bodies are capable of adjusting in ways we've hardly dreamt of. If we can only find the key. I'm so close now, so very close.
The key to what?
Complete transplantations. To be able to transplant limbs and organs. To be able to replace diseased and damaged parts of the body as easily as we replace eye corneas now. So that the new parts will join together as though they were born there.
It can't be done.
It can be done. With my new special compound I've created, I'll do it. I know I can do it.
Sure, that's what you say.
That's what I know. I know I'm close.
Darling, I'm so proud of you, I could kiss you.
Promises, huh? Always promises.
Careful, your father's liable to report us.
And stop the floor show? When you two are married, it won't be fun to watch anymore.
Well, I can promise you one thing. Your grandchildren won't be test tube babies.
You better hurry if you want to catch that plane to Denver, Dad. You know that medical convention can't start without you.
Jan, you'd better check about my reservations.
Oh, yes, I'll call the airport. I'll be right back.
Bill, the line between scientific genius and obsessive fanaticism is a thin one. Now, I want you on the right side of it.
If I don't experiment, how can I hope to perform operations like the one you almost messed up?
But I can't cover up for you anymore. The superintendent had it out with me. He thinks it's you who's been stealing those limbs from the amputee operations.
So what if it is? I've got to have limbs for my transplant experiments. Test and experiment, test and experiment.
Yes, but limbs and organs taken from people.
I've got to have them to work with. Sure, I've made a few mistakes, but I've learned from them. I've learned.
Your reservations are all set. 3:30 takeoff.
Well, what have you two planned for the weekend?
Oh, nothing much. It's a quiet weekend.
You sure you're not going up to the country house? You're always sneaking off up there. The place gives me the creeps. I should have sold it when your mother died.
You can't sell that place. Well, I mean, it's nice to get away from the city. I can work without anyone snooping around.
You spend too much time up there. All right, I'll see you both in a few days. Got to clean up and get out of here. Fine operation or not, Bill. You're walking on thin ice. But don't go too far.
Oh, every time you touch me, I go out of my mind. I want to kiss you. Bill, I want to get married. I can't stand not having you.
You've been wonderful.
Oh, I'd rather be a bride.
In a few more weeks. And nothing will keep us apart. We'll be together.
Dr. Kortner. I'm so glad you're here. I was afraid you'd gotten away. There was a very important phone message that came to you. It sounded quite urgent. I've been looking everywhere. It was from a man called Kurt. He called from the country place, and he said something terrible has happened. He wanted you to come right out.
Thank you. Well, you've always wanted to know what's kept me away from you so many weekends. Have you got the keys to your car?
Why haven't you ever taken me up here before?
Because the things I'm working on don't need an audience.
That telephone call. What about it?
All right, all right. Hold off the questions.
Why the mystery, Bill? What's it all about?
We'll be there soon enough. You'll see. I've got to hurry. All right, for God's sake, open the door. I'm coming! Mac, what's happened to you?
It's been a terrible accident. I've got to save her. I've got to save her.
What is it? What have you got there?
Kurt, please. Sterilize the tubes and instruments, quickly.
What are you going to do? Aren't you going to have a look in the closet first?
No, I can't now. This is more important.
But you don't understand.
For God's sake, Kurt, this is urgent. Do as I tell you before it's too late. I can't waste precious time arguing with you.
The eyelids. I saw them move. It can't be. My eyes are deceiving me.
What you see is real. What's done is done, and what I've done is right. It's the work of science.
I remember fire. Burning. Let me die. Let me die.
I've had success with transplants. Now I can do it for her.
Transplant her to what?
I brought her back. She'll live, and I'll get her another body. I can make her complete again.
Only a madman can believe that she could ever be like before.
Don't argue with me. I love her too much to let her stay like this. I'll restore her as before. You'll see.
Can't you realize? Can't you see? There's a pattern to all that lives. An order, an arrangement. She had a heart and a brain, and her spirit was in both, not in one or the other.
No. I'll give her a brain and a heart.
Yes, and what of her soul? You say you love her, and you can remember her love for you. Then how can you make of her an experiment of horror?
All the skill and science I possess was meant for this. Life has a pattern. The whole pattern of my life is shaping itself to save her now.
Then you intend to go through with it?
Yes. Sleep, my darling. Rest and grow stronger.
How long do you think we can keep her alive under these conditions?
48. 50 hours at the most.
Yes. And you really believe you can work a transplant on her successfully?
Yes.
Like my arm. Withered and deformed.
Yours was an early experiment that failed. With her, I'm using my new adreno serum. Must work. I've got to go now. If the police or anyone call, tell them you don't know anything about it. I don't think anyone will trace us here because her body was burned in the wreckage.
Yes, of course, of course. Look, Bill, before you go, do have a look in that closet. It's the reason why I called you up here.
Keep it locked.
Last night it got so violent it almost broke out.
No. No, not through that thickness. Keep it closed. I've got to think about her now. I've got to find her a body.
How are you going to go about getting one? Bill, how will you do it?
There are ways. There are ways.
I absolutely love the opening segment of this movie. First of all, right out of the gate, it's very clear Dr. Bill Courtner is not all that sane. It's interesting to me that Dr. Bill is a flat-out villain, despite making a lot of his decisions based on what would, at least on the surface, seem fairly well-intentioned. However, it's not. Dr. Bill talks about using experimental methods. He actually saves a dying patient that he and his father are operating on using these experimental methods. This doesn't go over well with Dr. Bill's dad, and it brings up an interesting question, right? Like, why wouldn't a doctor try to do anything and everything to try to save a dying person? I think the main thing that Dr. Bill's father is kind of grasping onto is if Bill wants to transplant every organ or limb or whatever other body part, what does that exactly mean for the identity of the human race? Is Bill tinkering with elemental things that could lead to people losing themselves? Or is it that Bill's father is thinking of things in a more old world faith-based sort of way? If Bill is making all these breakthroughs, is he tampering with nature and or God? This was a part of the theme of Frankenstein. If Frankenstein built a living thing out of dead tissue, does that mean science kills religion? What does that make Dr. Frankenstein himself? Various depictions of Dr. Frankenstein would show the scientist as trying to see how far he can push nature with science, but oftentimes, especially in a Universal classic film from 1931, Frankenstein would eventually pull himself back from the edge of insanity through the help of his mentor and fiancée. But that is not what's going on in this movie. In The Brain That Wouldn't Die, Dr. Bill is already over the edge. He's been stealing limbs from the hospital morgue. His father even knows this. Bill has set up a secret lab out in the country to do his work. I assume that is to keep his father and Jan, his fiancée, from nosing around and finding out that he's been doing some fairly ghastly stuff. But when he gets a call from his lab assistant, Kurt, to come out to deal with an emergency, he and Jan race out to the country to his lab, and he's finally going to reveal to Jan what's going on out there. But he wrecks, and when he finds her dying, he takes off running with what we discover is her severed head. At first, you might think he's doing this out of love for Jan, but as we'll see, it's not really that simple.
I think it's kind of interesting how kind of sexual Jan and Bill are right there in the workplace. She talks about how his touch drives her crazy and all that stuff. Kind of mature for the late 50s and early 60s.
Yeah, this movie, as we'll be seeing very soon, has a definite lasciviousness to it. It's part of three things that make this movie kind of interesting for its time. I talked about how Bill isn't really ever shown in a good light. That will be made much more apparent very soon, too, as he decides to hunt down people to, with the proper body to place Jan's decapitated head upon. The second thing is the sexual nature of this movie. Sure, it was a B-movie, but it wasn't exactly released that far outside of the mainstream. Jan is visibly turned on by Bill. Bill is going to be seeking her new body in red light kinds of places. Then, thirdly, this is really nothing more than a twisted Frankenstein tale. It's the reason why I specifically mentioned Frankenstein just a few moments ago in the first place.
You know, Geoff, I'm kind of thinking about this, and here's a question for you. Would you rather be dead or paralyzed by virtue of just being a head in a pan? Frankly, I'd rather be dead. I'm not too sure I'm as excited about Bill as Jan is. So if he's my doctor, I'll take the dirt nap instead of the pan of goo.
You know, I'm not entirely sure I want to just be a head in some goo either. I mean, sure, maybe he can put my, head onto a new body, but I'm not sure if I'd love knowing that he killed someone for that body. I've seen too many horror movies, so I know that body is gonna have a mind of its own and seek revenge even though my head is on it.
Ooh, good point.
Now, let's talk about a couple of the people in this movie, and we'll start with Jason Evers playing Dr. Bill Courtner. While this is easily the most recognizable role for Evers, he had a pretty darn good career that spanned several decades. He started out on Broadway, which ultimately got him to Hollywood. Now, Evers did a lot of television dating all the way back to 1949 with NBC Presents. He did a lot of guest spots on several of the popular TV series of the 50s and 60s. That, of course, means a lot of work in westerns like Laramie or Tales of Wells Fargo. He landed his most regular gig on the early 60s show Channing, but he had 3 guest appearances on both Perry Mason and Gunsmoke. In the later 60s, he had guest appearances on The Big Valley and The Wild Wild West. And, of course, I have to mention he was Rail on Star Trek in the 3rd season episode Wink of an Eye. Now, I could list off a dozen more extremely popular TV series of the 70s and 80s that he appeared on, but just know that between 1949 and 1987, if there was a popular TV show, Evers likely guest starred on it at some point. Now, a couple of small roles he did have in 2 sequels were 1971's Escape from the Planet of the Apes and 1990's Basket Case 2. The latter proved to be his final film role. Evers eventually died at the age of 83 in 2005 from heart failure. Kurt was played by Anthony LaPena, who was a little bit more of a voice actor than an on-screen actor. While he did have a dozen more credits, including the spaghetti western Johnny Yuma, LaPena's greatest claim to fame was as a voice actor, dubbing for films that were either from Europe or where an actor had to be overdubbed due to the actor being foreign, working here in an English film. Now, he did dubbing for classics like Deep Red, Strip Nude for Your Killer, Inferno, Cannibal Ferox, and Hercules. All of these were films that were either made by or featured actors who were Italian. Now, Nurse, I think I've said enough.
I wholeheartedly agree.
So let's get back... Hey.
What? I'm only agreeing with you.
Fair enough. Now let's get back to the brain that wouldn't die, and we'll see what Dr. Bill's devious plans are to fetch Jan a brand new body.
took you so long?
What made you think I'd come?
You know a good thing when you see it.
Yeah, there was plenty to see. I liked your act.
Is that all you liked?
Well, your costume, what there was of it, was interesting.
Is that all?
The rest of the equipment is standard. But, the arrangement is pretty special.
You know, tourists just looking at the sights. What are you doing here? Slumming?
I get my allowance once a week.
Okay, if you're so loaded, you pay for the drinks.
I already did. Are you hustling for the house?
I hustle for myself. I'm the leading lady around here. I can sit with the squares out front, or I can relax back here with my friends.
I'll bet you don't have an enemy in the world. Hmm?
Let me die. Let me die.
Where are you from?
Oh, around. Just looking around.
When you get done looking, then what?
I operate.
I get your message. You're coming across. You could flip any chick in the house. Why me?
Well, like I said, I'm looking.
Well, you don't have to look any further. I'm not going to fake it for you.
When do you go on again, When?
Relax. I got another show yet, but it could be for you.
Oh, I was just asking.
Try taking. Are you getting nervous? I'm over 21.
Oh, it isn't that. I've just got things to do. Things to take care of.
Well, if I don't exactly make you sick, what could be more important that could be taken care of right now?
Well, I've got to see about helping somebody. Somebody who needs my help very badly.
You can't cut out of me now, baby. Now when you got me feeling so good. I'm so warm all over. I'm good for you. I know I'm good for what you want.
You may be just what I'm looking for.
You've got your nerve.
Oh, look who's talking.
Why'd you haul your beat-up body back to the bar with the rest of the flies?
Keep your G-string on. I only came in here to change my clothes. I got admission. Now I'd like to see the rest of the show.
Come back in half an hour and maybe you will.
Get lost. Hi, lover boy. I see you've met the queen. Hey. Come here, don't hide. You know, you've got the kind of face a girl doesn't mind looking at. Even out front, all the other girls are asking about you.
Get out of here. Choose company. Three's a crowd.
Who's to tell me to blow if I don't want to? This here's my dressing room, too. Remember?
It kills her to see me make time.
You're the only thing that's going to be made around here tonight. Honey.
Eat your heart out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'd better be going,
What for? Look what you've done. You come bussing with your 2 cents. Let me see you later. I'll make everything up to you. I swear I will.
Yeah. Come on back later. I'll remember you.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of.
You lousy tramp. Once in a blue moon, I latch into a guy with class, and you mess it up.
What makes you think you had him? He wouldn't have you on a bet.
Says who?
Says me. What's a guy like that want with leftovers for?
Leftovers?
Why, you cheap third-rate stripper! You want to pull it over? You cheap bleeding! Let go! You had to pull me. Well, there. I'll bash you like a bug. You should try. Oh, I'll try, all right. Meow.
You. Inside the closet. What has he done to you? I know there's someone there. Knock once if you hear me. And I'm not the first. Knock twice if I'm not the first. He should have let me die. I hate him for what he's done to me. If he only knew what it's like being like this. You know what it's like. Together we could have revenge. You want revenge? You the thing inside and me the thing out here. My brain's still untouched. And his keeping me alive has given me a power he didn't count on. Power that you can feel. Across this room and through that door. Can't you? Together we're both more than things. We're a power as hideous as our deformities. Together we'll wreak our revenge. I shall create power, and you will enforce it. You the thing inside. Me the thing out here. What's locked behind that door?
Horror. No normal mind can imagine. Something even more terrible than you.
No, my deformed friend. Like all quantities, horror has its ultimate. And I'm that.
No. There is a horror beyond yours. And it's in there. Locked behind that door. The paths of experimentation twist and turn through mountains of miscalculation and often lose themselves in error and darkness. Behind that door is the sum total of Dr. Courtney's mistakes.
He had no right to bring me back to this.
Perhaps not. Who knows? But you should know that before he injected the serum into that, it was but a mass of grafted tissues, lifeless. Just lay there, weighted down with its transplants of broken limbs and amputated arms. But with this serum, it began to breathe.
It's impossible.
Would you have thought possible what he's already done? Take yourself. He's brought you back. You live. Only a few years ago, all transplants were impossible.
That's what he's been doing up here where no one could see his work.
Yes. Experimenting with transplants on that. And on me. Letting him tear away my flesh time after time. Test after test. My hopes shattering with each grafted arm he fastened to me. Watching it wither and warp. Instead of strengthening. You see, he's learned from his mistakes.
And you stayed with him, helping him in his grotesque work that he claims is for science.
Was there a place for me on the outside with this? A world where eyes would look upon me with pity and people would turn away from me in disgust? No. The alcoholic has his bottle. The dope addict his needle. I had my research. I used to be a surgeon. It was my life. And one night in the laboratory there was an accident. They had to amputate my arm.
And he has used you to...
I had no choice. He was my only hope. A surgeon needs both his arms, not just one. You see, my transplanted grotesqueness stayed. So did I. I live only for the day he can work a successful transplant to my body. That is why I stay.
Transplant my head onto another body.
Yes. And he's insane with the belief he can do it.
But the tissues of my body would reject the tissues of another. Reject it as the foreign substance it is. The transplant would never take, it would never stay in place. My blood's antibodies would attack it as they attack any invading matter.
Yes, but his new discovery, this new serum, may change all that. This serum injected into the bloodstream affects the lymphoid tissues. Here in the neck. The lymphoids that provide the antibodies for the blood that attack foreign transplanted matter. It was untested, untried, till we used it on you.
So, that liquid in the blood that's being pumped through what's left of me what makes me feel the... He may produce results he didn't ask for.
Results? You mean like this?
Results more terrible than your arm of relative beauty. Results of power, of magnitude.
Power? What power? Can't you see that you're at the mercy of every element of the universe? How can you speak of power?
I have power. This liquid that he's pumped into me. My brain burns with it. That thing inside an iron touch. Want me to prove it?
You can prove nothing. You're powerless.
I'll show you how powerless I am. You. Behind that door. Let me know if you hear me. Whoever, whatever you are, I command you. You understand me. I'm only a head, and you're whatever you are. Together we're strong, more powerful than any of them.
What are you running from? What's wrong with you?
Oh, it's you. Something wrong, something beyond control in that room.
There's nothing beyond my control. She's alive, and I'll keep her alive until I find her a body. I can't talk anymore. I'm tired. I've got to go to sleep.
And you didn't find her a body?
Well, I've got to be careful. I can't afford to be identified as the last person seen with a girl before she disappears.
Do you think you'll get one?
There are many things left for tomorrow.
I was about to call a cop the way you were looking me over. How have you been, Bill?
Oh, just fine, Donna. I haven't seen you for quite a while.
Too long. I'm still waiting for that call you once promised me.
Well, you know how it is with interns. All work.
All work and no play even makes for dull doctors. You're gonna lose that bedside manner of yours. Say, how about a little side course in anatomy?
Yours? Anytime.
No, not mine. A Body Beautiful contest. You know, bathing suit models. Plenty of females on the hoof. Your eyes will have a field day. Interested?
Well, why not? You're just what the doctor ordered. Come on, jump in. On second thought, I just remembered I've got to stop by my place and take care of a few things. It'll only take a minute. You don't mind, do you?
I always follow the doctor's orders. Anything you prescribe, I'll take.
That's what I like about you, Donna. Always so obliging.
Hey, Donna, where are you going? What's the hurry? Hi, Jeannie. We're going to look for some bodies.
You mean the contest?
Yeah.
Got any room for me?
Oh, sure, plenty. Bill, this is Jeannie Reynolds. Jeannie, this is Dr.
Hi.
Bill Cortner.
Hello.
Hop in, but first we gotta stop off at his place.
Sure.
Well, as a matter of fact, that can wait. Now that there's two of you, we'll have to wait.
Guess he thinks there's safety in numbers.
Well, this time there is.
We promised not to hurt you.
And I promise not to hurt you.
Bill, there's a seat.
Yeah, looks fine.
Well, it looks like we're about ready to go. Backstage are 5 of the girls who have reached the contest finals, and we are here to choose Miss Body Beautiful. Now, we've eliminated everyone except the 5 finalists, and they will be judged solely by your applause. So let's bring them on. First, Helen Appleton. Betty Brockton. Terry Lund. Peggy Howard.
She has the second nicest body I've ever seen.
Second to you?
No, another girl, a figure model. You remember that one in school years ago? The one who had the accident.
Oh, yeah. Doris,
Doris Powell.
Yeah, she's still around?
Few people see her nowadays. She just stays in her studio posing for art classes and camera bugs.
Figure model. Poses for art classes. The nicest body she's ever seen. The nicest body. Maybe this is the one. She's got to be. I can keep Jan alive only for a few more hours. I've got to find her a body.
He intends to kill somebody. To rob them of their body. Do you hear me? Yes, you hear me. You know how Bill's egotism drives him on and on. To infamy upon infamy. Can good ever be born of evil? Yet he claims his work is for science, for humanity. To be joined to flesh not your own. What's human in this? Of how you must exist, locked behind that door. We've got to stop him.
Who doesn't like a stripper fight?
For sure. And the movie is kind enough to include a screeching cat sound effect just to remind you that this is indeed a hell of a cat fight between two strippers.
That's what strippers sound like when they fight, though, isn't it?
Well, I suppose we can go sometime and find out.
Sweet. I know just the place.
You do?
I had a life before I started working here.
Okay, of course, the most important person in this movie is Jan Compton, played by Virginia Leith. Now, let's not forget we've seen her before. Back in Season 3's finale, we watched Stanley Kubrick's first film, Fear and Desire. Now, Leith was cast in that as the girl. She was the unfortunate peasant girl who ran afoul of a group of soldiers who survived a plane crash. And they bind her to a tree to prevent her from telling anyone she saw them. And one of the soldiers is left to watch her, but he cracks and kills her when she tries to escape. Now, Leith had a fairly decent career. She was already in her 30s when she was in this film, but she had been known as the girlfriend of Jeffrey Hunter and Marlon Brando in the mid-50s. In 1956, she appeared in A Kiss Before Dying, which was a pretty darn popular film noir, which got a 1991 remake that was not as well received. But this was her last credit for 15 years before she reappeared on TV for episodes of Beretta, Starsky and Hutch, Barnaby Jones, and Policewoman. Her final credit was for the 1980 disaster miniseries Condominium, which starred Barbara Eden, Dan Haggerty, and Ralph Bellamy. Leith died in 2019, and appropriately, she donated her body to UCLA Medical School.
I know it's kind of morbid, but considering this is her most enduring performance, yeah, that is totally appropriate.
Now, I really like her as Jan Compton. Leith is an interesting actress. There is something rather appealing about her. She's not the most glamorous or sexiest of actresses, but she's very attractive. She also has that smoky voice, too.
Yeah, that really suits her well in this movie.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, she has to do almost everything with her voice and her face. She's also extremely despondent in this, too, so she doesn't want to be alive. I mean, she's just a head in a pan of goo, and that's fairly monstrous. And it certainly does nothing for her body image, I guess. Anyway, she also has developed an interesting superpower, too. You see that goo in the pan that her head's sitting in? Well, that has given her a psychic link with something behind a padlocked door.
Ooh, yeah. What's behind the door?
You know, probably nothing good, but very clearly there was already something more to what Dr. Bill is doing at his secret lab in the country. We know he's done some pretty gnarly things there. And it's actually kind of smart in a science fiction sort of way to connect the head in the pan, dubbed affectionately as Jan in the Pan, and the monster behind the locked door.
Her psychic link does kind of feel like it came out of nowhere.
You know, I can kind of understand that in the normal scenario when it comes to how movies are typically constructed, but I will also say that I think it works in this movie's situation because, you know, I think this movie should connect Jan in the Pan to the monster behind the door because Dr. Bill is doing weird science. Having his creations starting to form a bond is a decent way to build tension as the movie rushes toward the third act.
I can see where you're going with that. It does make sense in a B-movie monster flick.
Yeah, and as I was saying, I do like how Jan is changing. I don't think it's the goo. I don't think it's her power to communicate with the thing on the other side of the door. I think it's pure anger and a true desire to be dead. It's not a common thing to hear from a lead character in a movie like this, at least in that time frame. If Jan had any ability to, I do think she would willingly and happily commit suicide. This would still have been a time in which the girl would have been whisked away by an admirer and kept safe from the monster. She, like Dr. Bill, shouldn't be this type of character. Dr. Bill seemingly is trying to save his fiancée, but is really just seeing how far he can take his weird science. Jan is becoming hateful and kind of twisted and evil in her own right.
Yeah, but her anger and hate is justified.
Oh, I 100% agree. It's a righteous evil. So again, this movie is playing with typical tropes and doing things in a slightly different way.
This is a good movie.
It really is. Earlier on, I mentioned this film's original working title was The Black Door. And here's where I can talk a little bit more about that on a contextual level. The black door could refer to his lab. It could refer to the door that his monster is behind. It could even refer to Jan wanting death and therefore to cross some sort of black door into whatever lies beyond. It could refer to Dr. Bill's experiments and how they have led him beyond a point of good science and into something more treacherous and self-centered. Now, that title could connect to any of those things. However, it's a little too smart of a title that has a woman's decapitated head and a pan of goo and a monster that she can telepathically communicate with behind a locked door.
Yeah, well, I prefer I Was a Teenage Brain Surgeon.
Okay, boys, I've had it for tonight.
Come on, baby, one more. Just one more, please. Another 5 minutes, baby.
Time's just about up anyway.
Okay. Say, Doris, would you like to have a drink with me? Just you and me, away from everybody? Someplace where nobody will butt in, where you and I can really be alone.
No, thank you.
How about posing for me? Private like. I'll pay you real money, real good money. Kind of money they don't throw at you every day, and for doing hardly nothing at all.
I do my posing for classes only, Wednesdays and Saturdays, 8 to 10.
Yeah, I know, but we can...
Good night. See it all, mister. The show's over. Next time, bring a camera and buy a ticket. I'm not running a charity.
You don't remember me, do you, Doris?
Every guy on the make gives me that same tired line.
I'm Bill Courtner.
Bill Courtner. Long time ago, that fight. You almost tore that wise guy apart for making fun of me. After my accident.
Look, can't we go somewhere and talk?
No, I don't date men. Because I pose like I do. Your mind works overtime. You get ideas. You're all alike.
Oh, not all of us. I'm not on the make for you.
Okay, so maybe you're better than most. Maybe not. I still hate all men. I hate them for what one did to me once. Have you forgotten? Well, have you?
No, I haven't forgotten.
Well, neither have I. I carry the memory around with me.
But But you can't hide yourself away here forever, posing bare in front of a bunch of neurotics.
Listen, Galahad. I trusted a man once, all the way. What did it get me? He gets his head full of jealous lies, and I get...
You've got to forget what
How
happened.
can I forget? I carry the memory around with me. Am I so appealing to you now? Still so interested? Doesn't it make you sick? You don't even turn away from me, like everyone else does.
To me, you're not ugly. I see only beauty in you. You have a lovely body and a face that can be made beautiful again also.
Yeah. I've heard that song before.
I'm a doctor, I know. My father's one of the leading plastic surgeons. If anyone can help you, we can. I know I can.
I've been to doctors. It's no use. The scar tissue's too deep. No one can help me.
Now, that was a few years ago. Today, nothing's hopeless. We can graft scar and skin tissue. Well, we can even freeze areas of the skin and sand away damaged skin tissues.
The way you say that look in your eyes, I almost want to believe you. I almost want to believe you.
Well, then start believing, hmm?
Even if your father could help me, I couldn't pay him the kind of money it would take.
Don't talk about money. He does a lot of work without any charge.
Why should you want to do this for me? What's in it for you?
I'm going to make your face beautiful again. Cut it off and give your body away.
I'm sorry, Bill. I have been knocked around so many times. I've lost count. It's tough living with this. I don't mean to sound ungrateful.
Well, because you've been battered around, don't go sour. You shouldn't lose your trust in people. Not all of us.
I believe you. I want to. Do you really think something can be done?
Only my father knows. Look, we have a country place just out of town. He's visiting for the weekend. I could take you there now for a consultation.
You mean tonight?
Well, if you'd rather wait till he comes back, if he comes
no.
back.
I mean, he wouldn't be annoyed being bothered with me so late at night.
Well, you let me do the worrying, hmm?
I'll do anything that'll help me get rid of this face.
Well, that's where I come in. Remember the last time I helped you? Where are you going? Who are you calling?
My girlfriend. I want to tell her the news.
Before you know what the verdict's going to be?
You're right. I shouldn't talk until I know what's going to happen. My girlfriend, she's supposed to drop in later. I'll have to leave her a note or something.
Well, just tell her you'll see you later. Otherwise, she'll ask a lot of nosy questions. We want to be sure first. Just throw something on, huh?
I'll be with you in a minute.
Just tell her you'll keep in touch. I'll leave it on the table. She'll see it.
Had to go out with old friend Bill Courtner. We'll call you tomorrow. Doris. Here.
I'll leave it on the lamp. She'll see it, won't she?
That's the first place she'll look. I'll leave the lights on for her. I have waited so long for this.
So have I.
it again. Got to see your hideousness. You've got to see mine. Wonder which of us is more awful. Nothing you can be is more terrible than what I am. A head without a body. A head that should be in its grave. I hate him. I hate him for what he's done to me. Can your horror match mine? Quiet. Someone's coming.
I have come to feed your friend. While you feed yourself with hate, it prefers food.
Your former sniveling fear becomes you more.
Yeah. What makes you think I'm afraid of what's in there? Or of you? A mere head in search of a body.
People fear what they don't understand and what they can't see.
What are you talking about? You're nothing but a freak of life and a freak of death. Why should I be afraid of a few knocks on a door?
But last night you ran. You were afraid of what you imagined lay behind that door.
I? Imagined? It was I who helped graft together the bits and pieces that were stolen from the hospital. An amputated arm, a leg, a torso. It was I who helped piece them together like a monstrous jigsaw puzzle.
And that same medicine that he's fed to me to activate my lymphoid tissues. Has he fed it to that?
No. No, on that he used an earlier formula. It wasn't as successful as the serum he's using on you, but it was enough to allow the transplants to take. If your experiment is successful, then it'll be my turn.
And what else has happened to it?
Mean what else? Well, it's mutated some, of course. It's changed considerably.
Why don't you open the door? And we'll both see how it's changed.
Listen, you. I warn you. You better stop pestering me, do you hear? I'm getting fed up with you and your insidious talk. He should have cut out your tongue while he was at it.
Afraid?
Afraid of whom? Of you? No. Not anymore.
But of it.
Nor of it. He only keeps it locked in there so that it'll be safe, that's all.
Safe? From me?
You beast. I hope he prolongs your existence into a lifetime of agony. Then we'll see who's laughing at whom. You miserable fool!
Get him!
Ah, no!
Get him! Kill him!
You and your father live here?
Only on weekends when we want to get away from the city.
This place certainly is lonely.
Well, the further from prying eyes, the better. I mean, it's nice and quiet here. We can get away from the noise and telephones.
Oh, I guess it is.
Well, sit down, sit down. I'll fix us a drink, huh? My father should be back soon.
You mean he's not here now?
Oh, come on now, Doris. Do I look like a maniac who goes around killing girls? Now, you've got to learn to trust people. You know, people like me, really.
I'm sorry. I trust you. I trust you with my life.
Well, I can't ask for any more than that. I'll be right back.
I was beginning to think you'd forgotten about me.
Forgotten you? Why, Doris, you've become very important to me. Very important. I put a little water in it so it wouldn't be too strong for you.
Fine. I'm not a very heavy drinker.
Neither am I. Well, here's to your future, whatever it may be.
I'll drink to that. Getting awfully warm in here. I feel kind of funny. Bill, you put something in my drink, didn't you?
I told you I'd bring you a body. A beautiful one. Soon it will be yours.
Bill, you can't.
Yes, I can. I want you as a complete woman, not part of one. Is it a crime to want to keep you alive? Is it a crime for science to jump ahead by years? This kind of thing must be done. When it's over, you'll see. I've got to hurry now. The drug will wear off soon and she'll be awake. When she does come to, it will be your head consciously awakening for her.
You must be stopped. You must.
And who's going to do it? It's got to be quiet here.
Can't stop me.
Very well.
told you to let me die.
It should be noted that the film's end title card does indeed read a different title, The Head That Wouldn't Die. Now, I don't know the story behind why the movie has mismatched title cards, but the story goes that the film had to be named The Head That Wouldn't Die in order to pass the more stringent UK certification board for release.
They really missed out on an opportunity to name the movie I Was a Teenage Head Surgeon.
Yeah, I suppose so.
You know something? Kurt was working for Dr. Bill because he wanted the doc to fix his messed up arm. But after Jan started communicating with the monster, it turns out that Kurt ended up with 2 messed up arms.
But how about that model that Dr. Bill picked up that he knew from college?
The worst possible thing was for her to survive. I mean, she had issues with trust after a guy cut her face up. Now she was taken advantage of by an old friend and drugged and nearly had her whole head cut off her body.
You know, she's had a bummer of a life, hasn't she? Now, she was played by Marilyn Hanold. It should be no surprise that she was a Playmate of the Month for Playboy in the June 1959 issue.
We watch a lot of movies with Playmates in small roles.
Now, we sure do. Now, Hanold didn't have a huge career, but she did have a decent career in film and TV. She was in an episode of Have Gun Will Travel. She was in an episode of Bewitched. She appeared in 2 episodes of Batman in 1966, but she had 2 fun movie credits near the end of her acting career. The first was as Princess Marquezan in Frankenstein Meets the Space Monster. She was actually the lead in that monster flick. Then, in 1967, she had a small part as an Amazon in Like Flint, the best American James Bond ripoff starring James Coburn.
Can we watch Frankenstein Meets the Space Monster?
Maybe, but first, let's hear your review.
You got it. This is an all-time classic B-movie. We have a mad scientist, a lab assistant with a physical deformity. We have a monster that reminded me of Sloth from the Goonies. We have girls slapping each other, a stripper fight. This movie has everything, but the best thing it has is a talking head. The Brain That Wouldn't Die gets an easy 5 poops out of 5 score.
Yeah, this is a really good one. That monster that reminded you of Sloth was played by Eddie Carmel. Now, he sadly didn't live very long. He died at the age of 36 in 1972 due to a heart attack. He was nicknamed the Jewish Giant. The Guinness Book of World Records listed him as 9 feet tall, but was probably more realistically more like 7 foot 3 inches. He did have the condition known as gigantism, which gave him his large stature. He later had acromegaly, which was caused by a pituitary condition. His maternal grandfather was also quite tall, while his parents were both 5'6". His mother's father was a towering 7'5", and he gained the title of the tallest rabbi in the world. Carmel ended up having an interesting career in his short life. He sold mutual funds, he was a carnival sideshow act, he was in a few films, he led a rock band, and then he was a stand-up comedian. Now, his rock and roll band, Nurse? Frankenstein and the Brain Surgeons.
Were they teenage surgeons?
You know, to make you happy, I certainly hope so. Now, he ended up having to stop working a few years before his death due to painful arthritis. This progressed to him being wheelchair-bound before not even being able to get out of bed. At the time of his death, Carmel had kyphoscoliosis that decreased his height by several inches.
I see he and his parents were the subjects of a Deanne Arbus photo print that sold for $421,000 in 2007.
Yeah, Arbus photographed several oddball subjects that many wouldn't have, including strippers, elderly people, and people who had different conditions like dwarfism and gigantism. Speaking of photographers, there is someone of note who appears in the scene in which Dr. Bill goes to see the model Peggy Howard. One of the photographers is played by Sammy Petrillo. Now, Petrillo was famous for being a comedian in the 50s. His claim to fame was partnering with comedian and crooner Duke Mitchell as an imitation of Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. Petrillo was pretty close in look and had a lot of the same ability to do wacky comedy that Lewis did. Now, Petrillo would later say that Lewis would create some problems for him and Mitchell as far as getting booked for acts. The pair went their separate ways on good terms, but he was good friends with Joseph Green and happened to be on set while Green was shooting The Brain That Wouldn't Die. For $90, Green put Petrillo into the scene as one of the photographers who took pictures of Peggy. I don't think he had a line, but his character was given the name Art. Well, Nurse?
Well, Geoff?
I don't think there's anything else we can add to The Brain That Wouldn't Die.
Nope, I don't think so either.
Alright, well, I guess this is the part where I tell you that we'll see you next week for another episode of B-Movie Enema, the series.
Wait, Geoff, what if we call the show I Was a Teenage B-Movie Enema?